As Bollywood's undisputed king, Shah Rukh Khan has transformed the narrative of stardom, blending charisma with cultural relevance in ways few have ever achieved. Author Mohar Basu joins Bushra Ahmed, executive editor at HarperCollins India, in a conversation around her latest book, Shah Rukh Khan, The Evolution of His Legacy and the Indelible Impact He's Had on Cinema and Culture.
Hi, Mohar. Welcome to our session.
Hi, Bushra. It's lovely to meet you.
Yes, everyone who's going to join us, this is Mohar Basu, the author of the best-selling Shah Rukh Khan that we published last year. And we're here to have a conversation about celebrating the King of Bollywood for World Book Day. We promise, Mohar and I collaborate a lot, so we promise you, hopefully, a fun-filled conversation. And for those of you who haven't read the book, will be pushed to pick up the book. And those who've read it, I'm sure Mohar will tell you more nuggets about Shah Rukh Khan.
Let's do it, Bushra.
Okay, so I was thinking, instead of us just launching into something, because we've talked about the book a lot, I'm going to ask you now some questions, okay? Let's get a little spicy. Let's see. I'm going to try and be a little spicy, okay?
Let's do this.
So, okay, the first thing, if you had to describe Shah Rukh in 3 words, not as a fan, because I know you're a fan also, but as a writer, what would those 3 words be?
Well,
I told you.
this is a spicy one. Okay, so I think I would call I'll call Shah Rukh Khan charismatic, witty, and has such a rich life. I don't know how else to encapsulate that, but such a rich life. It was a joy writing about this.
Yeah, you certainly had a lot of fun. And this is after everyone knows a lot about him, but still you dug out so much about him.
Right.
Okay, fine. I'll take it. I wanted more spice, but okay, let's see. You'll give me more spice as we go, okay? So let's say you spend so much time researching his life and diving into the archives. I know that you went and talked to so many people, but what is it one thing that you knew about him? Because you are a well-established entertainment journalist. So I feel there are very few things about the industry that are hidden from you. But what is it one opinion or something you knew about him that sort of completely changed while you were writing the book? Was there?
Yeah, there was actually, so I didn't know actually about the shooting of Pardes and how Gauri Khan was having a miscarriage when he was shooting for Pardes in the US. And there was a fan of Akshay Kumar who thought Shah Rukh is Akshay Kumar, chased him down the airport when he was trying to take a flight to Delhi. And by the time like the fan got to him, he was like, yes, okay, let's do this, let's take a picture. And she said, I think that I love you so much, Akshay. And he signed the autograph as love, Akshay.
Yeah.
Just thought it was such a sweet thing to do, in an industry that is so competitive and people are always just like out there to pull each other down. I think this was such a sweet, warm story. And I had no idea about this.
Yeah.
I found it like while researching. It was a great story.
Yeah, I know. When I read it, I actually asked her, I said, are you sure? There were so many moments in the book when I was editing with you. I was like, are you sure you've got it right? And you were like, yeah, it was. No, that actually ties in really well to my next question, right? What was the most sort of unfiltered, unapologetically, SRK moment in the book that really made you go, man, this man is the epitome or is like a walking Bollywood plot twist himself? Was there something that you feel like, there are many, I know. So yeah, rack your brain.
No, so I think the one thing that really stands out, while you're writing, you think of different stuff. A year later, almost a year later, I really like went back and read what he was, telling about his parents, and that kind of stayed with me. That's it's such a heartbreaking story to happen to anybody, and how he kind of pulled himself out of it. There's a line where he says that, okay, I was done. I was like so claustrophobic with the city of Delhi. I'm just going to go for 2 years to Bombay, and I want to figure that out from there. I don't want to ever work in the movies. I want to be a TV star. Cut to the guy comes here and he never leaves.
And I mean, you can say he owns Bombay now. Yeah, in that sense. Yeah.
Such a wild story, and I don't think I'll ever get over that story. Sometimes when a couple of friends who are working in the movie industry are having bad days, I tell them, I said, guys, Shah Rukh Khan can do it. तुम मेहनत तो कर ही सकते हो. It's not that difficult.
तुम्हारे साथ भी हो सकता है ये.
तुम्हारे साथ भी हो सकता है. Just put in the work.
Yeah. True. Okay, so you have, and we have it on the blurb itself that, you've dissected the myth, magic, madness. But now let's like, what is your hot take? Because this is a hot take, okay? See, this is a book that when you sort of proposed the book and, embarked on it, and we'll discuss more about it later, it was a book for the fans, right?
Yeah.
However, do you think Shah Rukh is a superstar because of his audience slash fans? Or are we who we are as fans because of him? You know?
No, I do think it's the former. I think he's a superstar because of his fans.
Yeah.
He completely deserves the title of being a superstar. Like, the stories that I've heard after the book has come out are fantastic. Like,
Are you saying there's a book too that has to come out?
would you sanction another book, Bushra? I don't think you would.
Yeah, yeah.
But honestly, the stories that have come after the book are very interesting. Like there's a chef called Chef Varun Inamdar. He's quite popular. He called me after the book release, and he's like, "I have a story to tell you." So I said, "Tell me." And he was with Shah Rukh Khan at IFA, and there was a lady who had got the ticket to meet Shah Rukh Khan, but she
Yeah,
said, "I cannot leave without making you meet my husband." And the husband didn't have a ticket. I think they could just afford one ticket.
yeah,
And so Shah Rukh carries the woman out and goes to meet the husband and comes back. I'm like, this guy is a superstar for
yeah,
because what he makes his fans feel. I think that's fantastic. And after
yeah.
40 years of stardom, you kind of get a little tired of it. I'm so glad
Hmm.
he hasn't yet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, the last, and this is, I feel like, yeah. So let's play villain for a second because I know that, when you were doing the book, it was more about sort of, because it was almost like you positioned the book as, a gift for his fans, right? But is there one critique of Shah Rukh you sort of dared to keep in the book, knowing it might sort of ruffle feathers a bit? Do you think there's something like that?
Yeah, there is. The fact that he's repetitive, the
Ah,
fact that,
yes.
and I think we've carried it very nicely
Yeah,
throughout chapters.
mm,
When you're a superstar, you have to play to the myth of what you've become.
yeah, yeah,
And that is a very integral part of being a superstar because you have to play to your fans. And
yeah,
how that can be very restrictive for actors sometimes. So reinvention is so difficult for
yeah,
actors.
yeah,
I just thought that how he reinvented himself is very interesting. He took a break and he was like,
yeah,
okay, let me see what I can do with myself. And what's that one
yeah,
thing I wanted to become? I wanted to
yeah.
be an action hero. Let's
Action.
do that.
Yeah, yeah,
And I,
yeah,
I think the fact that Shah Rukh is repetitive is the most prominent criticism about him. But
yeah,
that's the thing. That's the thing about Shah Rukh Khan. The minute you say that isse nahi ho payega, iska career khatam, he's
yeah,
over, he bounces back and reminds you why he is Shah Rukh Khan. So
yeah.
I just thought that came out nicely in the book.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, yeah, you did. I wanted on the repetition, but do you think, because see, again, so a lot of things that I'm going to talk to you, but of course, we are here to celebrate the book and Shah Rukh Khan. But I feel like your experience documenting the industry and seeing it so close also gives you sort of a much more bigger view of things, right? So while I agree with you, and I know that, there's a chapter where we sort of it's almost like you can see Shah Rukh repeating his film. But don't you think that, for the longest, perhaps 2000s, and again, you correct me because I'm bad at years and dates, but he was doing these roles, like he became Rahul, and there was these romance movies that, sort of just going on and on. And they were all arguably all hits, right? And of course, later on, one can say that later on they stopped working. But you know very well, being a writer and seeing the industry, that is also a bit of how tastes change. But do you think that he sort of, in that repetition of romance, like, he sort of played to his audience, yes, sort of also brought that fresh sense, breath of fresh air where honestly people like you and I now who are the generation who saw Shah Rukh are now dying for that kind of romance to come back.
Oh,
And there
yeah.
isn't, right?
It's gone missing. The world's changed so much. And I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think it's gone missing because the world has changed. Sure, that's one part of it. But I feel the way this industry or probably any creative industry functions is that when something becomes successful, you
Yeah.
want to give the audience more of it.
Yeah.
Also, there needs to be a successor of Shah Rukh Khan to take over.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't think there is.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think there is a romantic hero in the industry at this point who can take over
The mantle of the being the romantic hero right now.
so
Yeah.
no matter who comes, he will be pitted against Shah Rukh.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that sort of a space. And I don't think there's been anyone ever since who's come. I actually would like to quote a Rajiv Masand interview. So Rajiv Masand went to interview Fawad Khan.
Yeah.
And he started his interview with the fact that how women in his office, when they heard they wanted, to come along because they wanted to meet Fawad. There was his mother who was like, "Oh, I want to meet Fawad." There's a story that when they were shooting for Air Dil Hai Mushkil, Neetu Kapoor and
Yeah.
his Ridhima Asani wanted to go meet Fawad. So he
Yeah.
has that, women across generations
Yeah.
love him. That sort of
Yeah.
love is very hard to get. So I think
Yeah.
the only other person who had scope of that sort of love was somewhat Fawad, but since he doesn't work in India,
Yeah.
it got vanished. And I don't think there's been any other actor ever since who can take that baton. It's
Yeah.
not possible.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to go into again like spicy territory. Okay. So we know that, he's had a long career, and I feel there's a reason why you started your book with Jawan, right? Because Pathan Jawan in that sense, because it was literally like the resurgence of a hero. I mean, and these movies also were a certain kind. We've talked about it in the book. And do you think, and now he's doing King. I know that you've told me about that, and again the rest of the projects, but he's obviously doing projects of a certain genre, like action or larger action. Do you think now again, this is something that you're going to, yeah. But do you think he's going to see as much success coming on? Because he's seen, I mean, it's incredible. What do you think? Because you've seen the movies, him. What do you think? I know it's like dangerous territory to go
No,
into.
it's not dangerous territory at all. I'll tell you what has happened, okay? So in the 90s, when Shah Rukh Khan was ruling, and the early 2000s, it was the era of the superstar.
Yeah,
It was a film was selling because the superstar was
yeah,
headlining it. It was a certain sort of
100%.
project.
Yeah,
Now we have somehow gone back to the 70s when it's the era of the producer, the writer, the creator,
mm,
which is a good change actually.
yeah,
If King is a great film, it'll work. Because
yeah,
currently, if you want people to move to the theaters, you have to
yeah,
give them a package. You have to give them a thunderous soundtrack. You have to give them a story that they want to root for. You have to give them an actor they want to root for. And I just feel in times of social media, it's just so difficult for actors to have that bond with the audience. So Shah Rukh
yeah,
obviously benefits from that bond for sure, which he's built over 40 years.
yeah,
But you have to give the audience a crackling story.
yeah,
I feel that while Pathan and Jawan were, of course, Shah Rukh Khan projects and, him
yeah,
coming back to the theater,
yeah,
I think a large part of Jawan, why Jawan worked, was because it engaged with the audience. It
yeah,
told you that, that whole monologue where Shah Rukh says that, why don't you go out and vote, guys? You
yeah,
have so
yeah,
much kitch on everything. Please go out and vote.
yeah,
This is your democracy. This is your country. I
yeah,
just feel that that sort of engagement, when a story is able to do with the audience, it will work.
yeah,
It will
yeah,
work. So that is the secret of King, and I hope Siddharth Anand gets it right.
yeah,
Because I feel that if you give the audience a good story, a good hero, a good package, great music,
yeah.
breathtaking visuals, they'll come to the theater. You just have to give them a good story.
I agree with you in part because I also feel the proliferation of, platforms like Netflix, sort of OTT has also given us more options, right? 20 years ago, the only way we would see our entertainment was go to that theater and wait for that movie on Friday. But do you think, and I'm going to get some more actors, which like, unfortunately, everyone calls it three Khans, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm very aware that they're facing a very odd time in the last couple of years. We know that. However, like I think Sikandar would be a good example in that sense, like you and I were talking that technically it's not a great film, but Bhaijan ki film has still done money, right? And I'm guessing all the Khans. So do you think that with the Khans and of course Shah Rukh, I don't want to say leading the pack because you know how it is, but do you
But
think the
it's
Khans,
a competition. He never leads the pack. It's a
I
competition.
know.
Someone's
I know
always
you
over
tell
there.
me stories about this. We're going to talk about them because I found these really interesting. But do you think that the three Khans in some way they have put in time? So I feel it's unfair when people say that, the time is over because they have put in that time to work through projects. Do you think they still buck the trend where inki movie to chalegi? Do you really think that magic is still out there? No, you think it's yeah.
Okay. Okay. So there's a certain audience. Like,
Yeah.
for example, let's take Sikandar, for example. Okay.
Yeah.
Sikandar is not a great film. Sure.
Yeah.
Again, it could be a bad film, but I don't think a Salman Khan film works because it's a great film or not a great film. I think it works because he engages his audience in such a way that
Yeah.
they would show up for him. So, I was having a chat with this owner of Gaiety Galaxy, that is the biggest thing, one of the biggest single screen theaters where people
Yeah.
watch a Salman Khan film. It's supposed to be an experience. And he said कि मेरी theater हाउसफुल जा रही है, multiplex में picture नहीं चल रही है. So
Yeah.
there's a bit of a thing. So for example, when we go back to say a film like Lal Singh Chadda, which was Amir's last
Yeah.
release, Sikandar, which was Salman's last release, them not working is because of different reason. I feel they still have the pull with the audience. Like they will. It's what Karan Johar says. It's not about how great or not great a superstar's film is. The superstar is a superstar because he's able to get you the biggest opening.
Yeah.
Happens for a Salman, Shah Rukh, Amir film. But after that, if a film's quality is not good, it will not survive. Like it will not do like Dangal did some 1,300 crores.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think it will do that number.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the expectation also from them,
Exactly.
It's like, everyone waits for their movie at the end of the day. Yeah.
It's also what Taran Adarsh was saying in an interview yesterday. He said, when a Salman Khan film doesn't do well, it hurts him, of course, but usko kitna hi hurt karega. It hurts the industry more because exhibitors, distributors, audience, everyone was looking at that one film to bring people back to the theaters. It's a full monetary change, which which a superstar is at the center of.
Yeah.
So the whole system has to work, and the whole system falls apart when a superstar's film doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, so that really, so what you're saying is at the end of the day, and tying to a question I asked you, in the beginning, that it is all about, even in the case of Shah Rukh, it's about the fans, right? Now you have this really interesting chapter, which I think is a fantastic chapter where, I mean, you've done it throughout the book, but there's one particular chapter where you've talked about, I mean, you talk to a whole lot of fans from across the world, nationalities, ages. It clearly shows that here is a man who really is, he really is like a global superstar, right? In that sense, tell me when you started talking, tell me some of the very, interesting, fan conversations, some shocking, and what was your takeaway? I mean, I'm sure we all are fans, so we know what they'll say, but when you have that data of enough of them, what did you think about what is the Shah Rukh Khan fan,
Very interesting you asked that because, when I started writing the chapter, if you remember, I was only speaking to women who were like, oh, Shah Rukh Khan fan, we love him, he's our man. I was so happy I was getting women. And then there was this one lady, Shivi, I remember, who was like, oh, we went for the DDLJ trail. I said, oh, you must be a great, big Shah Rukh Khan. She's like, not me, my husband. We had to go for the second time because the first time he didn't get it right. He wanted to have the whole experience. And that's how we went to the men, and that's how we went to the male side of the. And I realized that, of the 200, 300 people we would have spoken to, actually more, we would have spoken to, everyone loves him for a different reason, which is very strange. You don't have such diverse sort of love.
Yeah.
I feel our parents' generation not only sees a child in him. No, it's way beyond that. They see someone who was fresh, vibrant, young, something that they couldn't be in their lifetime. So I feel that's what they see in Shah Rukh. Our generation, and this is, I think, across, I think it's become such a boy's world. Okay, everyone's a boy's boy. Where is the woman's man?
And with the kind of movies that are coming, I mean, let's face it, with an animal and all these, it's a very different.
Or Arjun Reddy, and not just these. Like these are the more hated ones. But I think every film has that one strand of misogyny. Even their feminism is kind of catering to the man. I'm like, so the women are never front and center. I think the women miss being front and center, which is why a Shah Rukh Khan film is that important to us. It is allowing us agency. And think of it, Bushra, when we think of the romance genre, that's pretty much the only genre that is about women. That puts us forward. And the lack of romance in the industry, therefore, says something larger about the society at this point of time. I feel that's what our generation is looking from in Shah Rukh, that respect, the kindness, the love.
Yeah.
We when we've grown up on a man like that, we can't settle for a different partner.
Yeah.
And the man that we
True.
are dating and the
True.
man that he is,
Yeah.
there's a
That
big,
that whole Rahul that was there through multiple Rahuls has really like sort of ruined. And that comes a lot in that chapter in your book when women talk. I remember I was when I was editing the book with you about this I think this girl whose husband, like who she was looking for, these attributes of actually Shah Rukh the man. I think what I found interesting is that there's a weird, which I feel you don't see in a lot of other stars, even abroad, right? There's that fusing of Shah Rukh the man, the whether it's the husband, whether it's the father, whether it's the friend, and the fusing of his characters, which I feel is so unique that this woman was very distressed because her husband
was
wasn't.
not helping around at home.
Yeah, yeah.
But strangely, Bushra, I do think actors, or for that matter, writers also, gravitate towards material that speak to them.
Hmm.
So actors also choose material that speak to them.
Yeah.
Today you can say, okay, Shah Rukh Khan's kind of catering to his female fan following. But say in 1995 when he was doing a DDLJ, that wasn't him catering. That was him gravitating towards a role he related with.
That's a good way of, I mean, I would never have thought of that, honestly.
Yeah, like that was him relating to this character. And there's somewhere in the book we say DDL is pretty much his life story. He
Yeah.
literally convinced Gauri's parents कि
Yeah.
मुझे ऐसे शादी करनी है, wooed
Yeah.
and then married her. It must have been difficult.
Yeah.
Also, very recently, if you remember the David Letterman show,
Yeah.
where Shah Rukh was there, if you remember, he was actually in the kitchen making pasta.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, I think a lot of who he is as a person comes to the characters that he plays, and that happens with most actors. You can't be completely different from the character that you're playing. Somewhat there's a fusion at some places, but in Shah Rukh's case, I think that's very much the man that he is and the actor that he is have kind of become a monolith in that sense.
Yeah.
Which is what also kind of stops him from experimenting. Can we see Shah Rukh Khan as a brutal villain? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel, you're right. I think you've dealt with it, and that is also something, and I feel like all the three Khans are facing in that sense. Perhaps not so much Amir, but Shah Rukh and Salman for sure. That I think sometimes in a country like ours, where you are larger than life, you get entrapped in the roles you create for yourself, right? Now I feel like perhaps there's a dichotomy. Like I was pleasantly surprised with the Alia Bhatt movie he did. My God, I'm bad with names. Dear Zindagi, where he took a role that was actually the back seat. Like he's not, and I think that's really, at least I felt that it was so great, and that is one of the things I would like to see him do again as a fan slash editor, and where he's doing such great roles, but it's sort of in the sense that it's a role. He's no more like Shah Rukh. Like I've told you, for me, the favorite film is Swades, right? Because for me, he was Mohan Bhargav in it. And I had never, let's face it, for the longest, in a lot of his super hit roles, there's a hint of Shah Rukh in every role of his, right? You know that, whether it's Kal Ho Na Ho, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. But I feel in Swades, it was like I did not see Shah Rukh. And I was amazed. I still love that movie. I know it's become this cult movie that people see. And for me also, I want to see that how I think I'm very intrigued, and that's why I asked you in the beginning, what is it going to be next for Shah Rukh? Because I mean, the industry, like I as a fan also, I don't understand. I can't see what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. It depends on, because he doesn't do interviews anymore, one doesn't know what he's chasing at this point of his career, right? I can only make assumptions. My assumption would be that he is trying to do what most superstars in this industry are trying to do, which is bring people back to the theaters, because that's become a major monetary problem, because if the money supply stops, the entire chain stops, right? So I think that would be the focus. So whatever he would do next, the focus of it would be to bring people back to the theater, whether it's him kind of catering to them with a role, or doing a big package film. We never know what he's thinking. I know he's doing King, but I think King is also a big action film.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is his next move, but we never know what that action film is like unless we watch it. Because
Yeah.
when I went to watch Jawan, I was so surprised. Like it's a very sweet line that's thrown in that ये जेल आप में आपके आदमी होंगे पर ये जेल हमारी औरतों का है.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. So Shah Rukh, when it's a superstar project, there's a lot of logistics. You have to make sure that there's a certain myth of a superstar. You have to feed that myth.
It's a showcasing you have to do almost.
Have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what Kabir Khan probably did with Bajrangi Bhaijaan.
Yeah.
Bhaijaan is this guy who's really kind-hearted, would like
Yeah.
rescue a girl, take her all the way back to Pakistan and drop her home.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's just, and you have to feed that myth of the hero. If you don't, the people will go back unhappy. And
Yeah.
these superstars, of course, are created by their fans. If we stop going for their films, I
Yeah.
don't think the films will work. And which is what is happening to most young actors right now. Their films are not working because they're not there.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me something. I mean, coming back to writing of the book in the sense that there is, I've talked to you about this, that Shah Rukh is, for the lack of a better word, an overexposed actor. He's been very open with the press. Because he's so good at interviews. Like that is like, I'm sure for you, it's like, wow, I get great copy out of it, right?
Oh, best copy ever.
Yeah, but then as a writer, okay, because there are books on him in the market. It's not like it's not been done before. But as a publisher, I do feel the book is doing really well. Now,
Good.
when you were working, when you were working with sort of a space where there's so much written about him, how did you go about making sure this book is different? Like, how did you approach it?
Bushra, when I started writing it, I wasn't even thinking of making it different because this is a story we all know, right?
Yeah,
But it's what I said on the day the book released. I said, this is my favorite fairy tale, and I love going back to this fairy tale.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
that young person's story from nowhere who came out of nowhere and became the king of the world in that sense, right?
yeah, yeah,
I just feel that I was never trying to make it fresh. But what happened eventually was the fact that the more you talk to fans, the more you like tap
yeah,
into their emotions, comes the sides that you weren't expecting. Like I remember that lady from Hyderabad who we spoke to, Bela. Bela
yeah,
spoke about how it was such a gut wrenching chat in that sense because she talks about how her father has never physically been affectionate towards her. And she
yeah,
talks about this documentary of Shah Rukh Khan where he sees that he's playing football with his son and he is giving Suhana a peck on the cheek and he's just doting on the children.
yeah,
Just felt the more fans I spoke to, the more voices that we brought into the book, it gave it like a very vibrant color.
yeah,
It gave it, I think we set the story from the prism of who he means and what he means to so many people across the world.
yeah, yeah,
Like, that guy, the taxi driver I met in Paris,
yeah.
he was saying, who said that, women like men who are butch? They don't, they like men who are sweet.
Yeah.
I've learned this from Shah Rukh Khan, and he actually has actually driven around Shah Rukh Khan during one of the schedules of.
Wow.
I think Harry met Sejal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Film. And he told me, he's like, he's so sweet and he's so kind, and he would be so busy throughout the day. But when fans would come, he would be like, okay, guys, give me 15 minutes. Let me talk to all of them. I'll be back.
Yeah.
I think that sort of color the fans gave it. And it just became a different story than we were trying to tell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Mohar. Here, for people who still haven't picked this book, please pick this book. It's a great book, if I may say so myself. Thank you, Mohar. It was,
Thank
as
you.
usual, very great talking to you.
Lovely.
And and let's see what you come up with next. I'm looking forward to see what you write next.
I think you should check your email, Bushra. We might have some.
All right, Mohar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.